We are now less than 2 weeks before the beginning of the Jewish New Year. So it's a great time to start prep and to get to understand the holiday on all levels. That means practically what we know, the laws of the day, and then also, of course, spiritually, because when you connect with the spiritual aspect of the holiday, the soul of the holiday, it's so much more meaningful. So some of us, let's say, grew up in like Jewish, like homes, traditional homes, but without like any real kind of like any particular spiritual, inspirational aspects to the holiday. It's like, so a lot of Jewish rituals, some families will observe, and we do, and people have a certain like feeling, oh, when I was a kid, this is what I used to do for the holidays, whether it's Rosh Hashana, Passover, Yom Kippur, Hanukkah. But until we really get to the soul of the day, we can't really connect with, really the true, pure meaning of the day. But before we do that, let's first understand practically what is starting. Rosh Hashana is the beginning. Well, let's say we look at it chronologically. The first day of what's called the 7th month is when the year begins, which is kind of odd. It's like saying the year begins in July. July 1st is New Year's, even though the first month is January. But the cycle of the months begin from the month of Nisan, and the cycle of the years begin from Tishrei, which is the first. So simply speaking, it's when we begin counting of the years. Now, if one was to look in the Torah, and I say Torah, I mean, let's say the Chumash, the 5 books of Moses, which is what, when we study the Parsha every week. There are 53 Parshas, starting from the beginning of Breshit, Genesis, up until the end, which we finish not long after Rosh Hashana, called Zos HaBracha. All 613 mitzvahs, all the commandments that Jews have, which most of them don't apply today without the land of Israel, or the biblical land of Israel. But nevertheless, all the holiday mitzvahs and all the Shabbos mitzvahs and all the kosher mitzvahs and all the mitzvahs that we have today are all sourced there, and all the other mitzvahs that we don't observe today are also sourced there. So we look up Rosh Hashana, and we find, what does it say about Rosh Hashana? Well, what would you think? What do we know about Rosh Hashana? Danielle, what do you know about Rosh Hashana?
It's the beginning of the year.
Beginning of the year. Does it say that in the Torah?
I don't know.
No, it doesn't say that. Does not say it's beginning of the year. As a matter of fact, Rosh Hashana, as we refer to it,
the head of the
is
year.
Not even called Rosh Hashana. It's the head of the year. When you're in New York, because we live in such a very prominent Jewish population and community, many people who are not Jewish always know it's the Jewish holiday. But and often, and if you look outwardly Jewish, like some of us do, I don't think I look that Jewish, but apparently people seem to think I look Jewish. Often I'll find the day before Rosh Hashana, oh, Happy New Year, and they'll be not Jewish and they'll say Happy New Year to me. But the truth is that it's not called. We don't wish each other Happy New Year in Judaism. We say, what do we say? We say Shana Tova, which means okay, good year, or we wish each other to be a sweet year. But it's also called Rosh Hashana, which is the head of the year. But does not say Rosh Hashana in the Torah. All it says is on the first day of the 7th month shall be a day of blowing the shofar. That's it. Later on in the oral law, in the Mishnah, is where we find that there are different times of the year called the heads of the year, what Rosh Hashana means. And the main one that we recognize as the head of the year is this coming. It will be 2 weeks from last night. It was Monday, yes. 2 weeks from last night, which is the first of Tishrei on the Jewish calendar. Following then you have the 10-day period, where there's 10 days of, Rosh Hashanah includes within it the beginning of the 10-day period called the 10 days of Teshuvah. The first days of Rosh Hashanah, first days are Rosh Hashanah, and the 10th day is Yom Kippur. We begin with focusing on the concept of the themes of Rosh Hashanah, which we'll discuss, a lot to do with the idea of kingship, crowning God as king, making God like the ruler, accepting him as our ruler. But the 10th day is Yom Kippur, the day of forgiveness. We don't speak much about forgiveness in Rosh Hashana. It's more about kingship. And the last day of the 10th day is Yom Kippur, which is the focus is on forgiveness. Following Yom Kippur, we have the 8 days of tremendous joy that was called Zman Simchasenu, which is the holiday of Sukkot. Finished off with Simchat Torah, when the cycle of the Torah readings are finished, we start over again, beginning of Bereshit in Genesis. So that's what happens. First 2 days, that's just on a practical level. What are some of the practical laws we have on that day? Number one, it's a day called a Yom Tov, which means it's kind of like Shabbos in the sense that we're not supposed to work on those days, but it's a little different from Shabbos because it's Yom Tov. Does anyone know the difference between a Yom Tov and a Shabbos?
You could still use the flame for other
You can use
stuff.
flames. We could use flames. You could transfer flames from one place to another place.
Can you light a new flame?
You can't light a new flame,
Okay,
but
but
you could
use the flame.
use the flame to light another flame.
Okay.
Can create a new one.
Yeah.
Biblically, you could create a new flame. Rabbinically, we don't do that. But you could transfer. So therefore, let's say, for example, the second night of Rosh Hashana, when you're lighting candles, you would just take one candle and that was lit from originally before Rosh Hashana, and then you light it on the second night. So it's considered like a Yom Tov, and therefore has a laws. You can also cook, and there's no laws prohibiting carrying. You don't need an Erev in order to carry outside. You can carry, and also you're allowed to cook something, as opposed to on Shabbos, you can't cook anything. Okay. And then the most important practical mitzvah of the day is the blowing of the shofar, which is today is called the Yom Teruah, which is a very special. If you were to say what is the essence of the day of Rosh Hashana, it's about hearing the blowing of the shofar, which is usually done in the part of right after the morning service, before the afternoon, before the service known as Musaf is read. But any time throughout the day, one could hear the shofar blown, at least the main parts of the shofar blowings, and to hear that, because that is somehow the main mitzvah of the day. So it's observing the day as a holiday. It's a Yom Tov, so it's kind of like a happy day, but it also has in it the extra prayers that we say for that day. But the most important thing that one can do on Rosh Hashana is, at the bare minimum, to hear the Rosh Hashana, a full blast of the Rosh Hashana blast, shofar blast.
The shofar already, I know they already started blowing. Was that for another reason?
Yes.
It was 2 weeks ago, or a week ago?
Very good, very good. So there is a custom. It's not a mitzvah, but it's a custom. Meaning to say it's not a commandment from the Torah, but it's a custom that during the month of Elul, which we're the last month of the year, every day of Elul, excluding the day before Rosh Hashana, we take a little break in between the practice ones and the real one. Not Shabbos, just the day before, and Shabbos, thank you for pointing that out, and Shabbos, that we blow the shofar every day. It's supposed to symbolize the concept of getting ready, the awareness that Rosh Hashanah is coming, and the New Year is coming, and it's a kind of remind us the concept of reconnecting, of the concept of teshuvah, of reestablishing a soul connection, and to get ready for these special, unique days of the days of all. Okay. And it was practical. Also there's a custom to eat sweet fruits on this day, to eat pomegranates, to eat other fruits, because it's supposed to be a sweet new year. And it's actually, according to Jewish law, we're not supposed to even eat foods that have a bitter taste to it, even if you enjoy the bitter, sharp taste. Why is that? Because we want to have a sweet year and not a bitter year. So after Rosh Hashanah, you could eat all the bitter foods you want. But somehow, with the idea, because it's the head of the year, therefore, which means like the head is like the head to the body, and it kind of directs the rest of the body. We believe that the things that we do on this day are so important, so special, they affect the year. Even the foods that we taste affect the year. We want to emphasize the concept of sweetness, which is kindness and goodness and revealed happy things. Okay, that's part of the practical aspect of Rosh Hashana, which we just kind of covered. Once again, those of you might be a bit confused. It's the first day of the 7th month. Does that make sense? No. Okay, good. Didn't think it would. It's kind of like you could say, kind of like the academic year starts September.
Right.
The year begins then. But it's hard to explain because we're also saying that really time begins at this point because this is the day we kind of regulate. So every holiday, you could say, sort of has a story behind it. So for example, Passover has the story of Passover, the going out of Egypt and freedom from slavery. Shavuos is about receiving the Torah. Hanukkah with the story of the miracles and so forth. Purim, the story of Esther and Haman. What's the story? You know, what do we celebrate? Who tried to kill us and why are we eating? You know, who tried on Rosh Hashana?
I just got that.
Every holiday is they tried to kill us. We won. Let's eat. Right? Rosh Hashana doesn't have that. Yom Kippur, we don't eat. As a matter of fact, if you think about it, every holiday, someone pointed this out to me, every Jewish holiday is all about the food. Everything. Always about the food. You say, well, what about Yom Kippur? Exactly, that's the whole point. What's Yom Kippur about? The fact that we're not eating. No, the fact that we're not eating. That's what the whole day is about. Some people don't do anything, they just don't eat. You know? The truth is that's the main mitzvah of the day. Okay, but let's go once again. For Rosh Hashana, start the new year of counting the years, but also marks the day. So there was no holidays, no one tried to kill us on this day. Well, probably someone did, but at least it's not what the holiday's about. But it's the day that we kind of celebrate the birthday of creation, and specifically the creation of Adam, the first human being, and together with his soulmate or his partner or his wife, Chava, also known in certain circles as Eve, Adam and Eve, Adam and Chava. So this day marks the day in the calendar, is the beginning of the human journey in this world, starting from the beginning of all humanity. Starts on this day. So therefore, how we celebrate the day, and how we connect with the day, and how we kind of spiritually connect, and how we try to become inspired, and what we try to gain from this day very much is about kind of the story about what it means to be a human being, the first human being, and how we kind of implement that into our lives. Now, as I often like to do, I want to ask a question. If, Elisa, let's say you're going to make your own religion, which you might decide to do one day, especially after you move to Israel. And you were going to have a day of the year which you call, almost like everyone has their new year, right? There's the Chinese New Year, which I have no idea what that means, but I know every year there's like a year of we're in the year of the dog, year of the cat, you know. What would you do? What would you do? What would you do? How would you do? Don't worry, there's no right or wrong answers. How would you make this day unique? Like here in America, what do we do for the New Year's?
Get drunk.
Get drunk. Most people get drunk. When you're younger, you get drunk. I remember now, when I was in college, I was in university, and not long afterwards, it was all about which party, who was
family. Sometimes
as you get older, you start saying, there's a point in your life when usually maybe it's not a good thing. The point in life is, we're going to stay home this year we're so tired of New Year's, we're just going to stay home and just, hang out with the family, We don't do those parties anymore. That's a new stage in life. The part in life where you have to be at the coolest most happening party and spend tons of money and go to a club somewhere and pay 3 or 4 times the amount you would pay for a taxi or Uber. but then you reach your point, I'm just going to stay home now because we're too mature for that. Okay, but what would you do? If you were going to make your own religion, that's what I'm going to do to sanctify the new year, whatever that means, the new year. What do you want to do?
Have a whole community jamming to some music. Everyone bring their own instrument and
Woodstock?
do jamming.
Make like a Woodstock. Jimi Hendrix playing the national anthem. Something like that. That'd be great. I might become a member of your religion. I like that one. Community music. What kind of music?
I don't know, some indie, hippie.
Oh yeah, it's gotta be hippie indie. Yeah. It's not gonna be hardcore rock and roll, Pearl Jam or Metallica.
Soft rock.
Soft rock. Okay, fine. All right, Lada, you're making your own religion. It's called Ladaism. how do you celebrate the New Year in Ladaism? Ladish. Are you Ladish? I don't know. I'm ish. I'm Lada-ish.
How we celebrate?
Anyway, you think what would be the most like? How do you think you would do it?
I think we will travel to a new place, somewhere.
Travel to a new place.
Yeah. Let's say to Indonesia, to see the beach, the ocean.
Right, that sounds nice. I don't know which one I like better. I don't know, being part of like the Woodstock Fest or going to Indonesia. Many people do that, by the way, for New Year's, but they just spend a lot of money and they go away and they go. I know in Russia they eat a lot of foods with mayonnaise and eggs, and they watch Putin speak about how great the country is. So that's a great way to spend that.
Yeah.
Actually, that religion, I don't want to be part of that religion. That doesn't sound like a lot of fun for me.
But you had one this experience.
I only 1 year, and that's it. And once is enough. Okay, Danielle, what would you do?
I have no idea.
Oh, I know you. I think I would make blow into a ram's horn and go to synagogue and
That would not be it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But all these things are what people do to celebrate. But what are we celebrating? I don't know. It meant nothing. It means nothing. It's just kind of like, what's the significance of just basically going from 2018 to 2019 or 2017 to 2018? It's just like a number change. It means nothing. Not knocking it, necessarily, but really there's no spiritual, there's no mystical, there's nothing soulful about it. In Judaism, as we can see, the exact opposite. It's all about the essence of the day, tapping into the essence of the day, and really reconnecting as what it means to be a human being. So we're going to read now this the beautiful messages that the Rebbe laid out for the Jewish people, how to kind of what to think about, what to meditate on, what should be our focus as we look into the prayer services, we look into the essence of the day, because there's a part of the day which is somewhat serious, but there's also part of the day which is inspirational and soulful, and there's also part of the day which is joyful. But let's get to what the essence of the day is. And the essence of the day is really understanding what happened on this day, which is once again it was the creation of not just of the earth or of reality in the universe, but rather the creation of the human being and what a human being is and how. So that's, if anything, what the day is all about is about what it means. How can we become more of a human being? Okay. So let's conquering oneself and the world. Danielle, we're going back to you now.
Okay.
We can skip this whole beginning stuff and say, to my brethren, sons and daughters of our people.
Wherever you are, God be gracious unto you. Sincere greetings and blessing. These days at the end of the outgoing year and on the eve of the new year may bring blessings to us all. Call for self-evaluation in respect of the year about to end, and in the light of this self-appraisal, for making the necessary resolutions for the coming year. Such a balance sheet can be valid only if the evaluation of the full extent of one's powers and opportunities was a correct one. Only then can one truly regret, in a commensurable degree, the missed opportunities and resolve to utilize one's capacities to the fullest extent from now on.
Okay, so number one.
That's heavy.
That's heavy, but it's also it doesn't we don't realize it, but it's actually a positive way of looking at oneself.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we sit around a table and we discuss these concepts and think about how do we can better ourselves and what can we do to be better, be more part of this world in a more healthier way, in a more positive way, in a more constructive way, people often sit around and say, "Oh, I gotta stop. Oh, I gotta start being late. Stop being late for the synagogue service." Someone was saying to me over Shabbos. Or one guy was like, I remember a couple months ago, one of the guy comes here often, and I said, "When you think of God, what do you think?" He said, "What was the word?"
Punisher.
The Punisher. God is the Punisher.
Wow.
And that's often we think of. We tend to think of God in this way, like in terms of this almighty, evil or very, very kind of angry entity that just kind of sees ourselves as all of the missed opportunities, as kind of somehow it implies here. But really, what the Rebbe says, we have to have a healthy balance sheet. We can't. During these few weeks, we're really supposed to be honestly looking at ourselves, looking at who we truly are. But it doesn't mean we're supposed to be looking at ourselves entirely in a negative way, with the left eye. We have to be honest. Let's look at our positive traits, and look at the good things that we do. We do a lot of this. There's no way no one at this table does not do good things. So we can't ignore those good things. And secondly, even more so, we need to emphasize not that we are bad and that we have sinned, but rather look at the potential. There's two ways. You can look at a person and say, oh, he's bad or she's bad, or you can say, I have this incredible potential. What am I doing with it? It's a much more positive way. So, for example, in parenting, this is always, in modern day parenting, this is what everyone always says, a very positive focused education to try to empower someone. So if it's that way in education with children, it's no different with God and with us. So that is also number one. As we come into Rosh Hashana, the beginning is we should emphasize, which is what we're going to do from the story of Adam, is seeing the potential that we have to make changes, to do incredible things. And so it's not that, oh no, we messed up. It's that, oh no, look what we can do. And look what we have ability to do, let's say, in the year to come, or in the time to come, or even in this moment right now. So the balance sheet has to be honest, meaning the honest sense, not, oh, you didn't include enough bad things, but don't forget about the good things, and don't forget about the potential that you have. Don't underestimate the power that you have as an incredible individual, who you are right now, the incredible power that you have, in what the kind of person you are, your background, where you come from. There's incredible things that you can do, and we shouldn't underestimate that. Okay. Go right now to the paragraph, the period of time before.
The period of time before and during Rosh Hashana is not only the occasion which demands spiritual stock-taking in general, but it also begs for a profound inner appreciation of the tremendous capacities which one possesses, as a man, the crown of creation, and as a Jew whom the Creator has given his divine law of life. For Rosh Hashana is the day when man was created.
Okay.
When Adam was created, the Creator immediately apprised him of his powers and told him what his purpose in life would be. Replenish the earth and conquer it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. Man was given the power Man was given the power to conquer the whole world and to rule over it on land, sea, and in the air, and he was enjoined so to do. This was his task. How is this world conquest to be attained, and what is the purpose and true meaning of it? This is what our sages tell us and teach us in this regard. When God created Adam, his soul, his divine image permeated and irradiated his whole being, by virtue of which he became the ruler over the entire creation. All the creatures gathered to serve him and to crown him as their creator. But Adam, pointing out their error, said to them, "Let us all come and worship God our Maker."
Okay, so there's many different levels to this point. We're going to start out in the practical level, then move it down to a more, I'd say, more of a psychological or spiritual mission. Number one, when Adam is created, he was was created as the ruler of all of the animals on the earth. Being created upright, being created with this thing called the brain, the ability to really, with the power of the mind, to rule over the earth. Not necessarily, not in physical strength. There are animals that are stronger, faster, and so forth. But even those animals, in comparison to human being, are nothing. We see that we have the power to dominate the earth, and that was the job given to Adam on this first day of creation. So, as the Rebbe uses the world conquest. Now, okay, that sounds like a lot for us to handle right now, especially in the world that we live in. I'm not ready to take over the world right now. The world's a big place with a lot of people, a lot of things. But on some level, this applies to all of us right now. That there is a world that we live in, and then I don't know if this is this letter or that letter, but I don't know, we'll get to that letter. But there's the macrocosm and they call the microcosm. That the sages say everything that exists within the whole entire world, the whole universe, exists in your life, in your world. Because very often we see a human being essentially is a microcosm for the whole entire world. As the whole world itself is, as the famous statement of the sages, that when you save one person, you save an entire world. So the world in Torah is divided up into 4 different categories. Human life, intelligent life, which in Hebrew is called medaber. Animal life, which in Hebrew is called chayot. Vegetable life, things that grow, as you can see, there's a difference between animal life and human life. There's a difference. What's the difference between animal life? Animals can think, animals can contemplate, animals have personalities, animals have the ability to even, you could say, plan out a particular venture to attack something or someone, but the difference between an animal and a human is that a human being has the ability to have introspection and can think about things and decide, you know what, I know I want that, but I've decided to work on myself, and I'm going to decide to work on my inner doggy. My inner puppy has not grown up, so I'm going to but the point is that as we can see, a human being has the ability to not act, is to go against its instincts, and ultimately to act, to have the ability to choose, which even an animal doesn't make choices, just follows its instincts. Plant life and animal life, as we can see clearly, animals think, and vegetables and trees just grow in this life, but there's no brain power, and it is inanimate matter, just pure existence. Now, these 4 aspects of creation also exist within a human being. There's an animal within a human being, there's plant life within the human being, and there's the inanimate aspects of the human being. There is that aspect with our physical bodies, and it also is that way within our lives. So the sages compared the 4 aspects of creation, which, by the way, correspond to the 4 letters of God's name. Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey correspond to the four aspects of creation. So the human aspect of these 4, being a human and shining light, or having dominion first by dominating all of the aspects of one's life, is what Adam first did physically in this world, and what we want to work on and do, what we want to activate or bring into our lives on Rosh Hashana. How can I be more of a human being, and how could the human aspect within me affect the animal within me? How could the human aspect within me affect the plant life within me? Or how could it affect the inanimate part of my life? So first, let's define what are the parts of my life that are called, let's say, are the animal aspects of my life. And then we'll work our way down. So where's the animal within the human being?
Actions?
Hmm?
Actions?
Actually, actions are on a lower level.
Like a drives. Like
Drives.
greed, or like
Yeah, there's what's called there's the animal soul. Right. Now, by the way, intellect could be the animal within you as well. Even thought out processes of how to get what I want from my ego is the animal within myself. But what the difference between a human and an animal is that an animal is always governed by there's something behind it. I get something from it, so I will utilize my brain power, and I can be smart and methodically think out how to get what I want when I need. But it's driven by the animal within me. So we want to bring the human aspect in ourselves to kind of affect that part of ourselves. That's the animal aspect. What it would be, what do we call the plant life within ourselves? Emotions, right? You did this once before, okay?
Why emotion?
Yeah,
Why emotions? See, even the animals would be emotional, right?
right.
Because animals think. Emotions are connected with trees and plants and things that just grow, because emotions are products, emotions are reactions to what your brain is thinking or contemplating or conceiving of. Emotions are how you react to the world around you. What motive, as the word itself, emotions come from the word to.
It grows.
Hmm?
It grows.
It grows.
Yeah.
And the truth is, your intellect, you can't really necessarily change how smart you are. You gain more knowledge, but your ability to process information, can't always change that. But your emotions, we could work on. I mean, become more of a human, to have the human effect in our vegetable life, which is our emotional life, would be to try to how do I become more, even in the parts of my life where I see myself that I often get maybe angry or carry around certain feelings or emotions that are unhealthy. How can I change those? How can I affect those aspects of my life in a healthier way? And then inanimate life, the rock, the plant life, would be considered like actions, indeed, actual doing that can be just in doing things. Okay. All right, so now we're going to move to, we'll go on to the Russian side of the table, because we have this is the Russian side here. So I'm going to ask Lada now the world conquest. So why don't you read for us?
The world conquest which was given to man as his task and mission in life is to elevate the whole of nature, including the beasts and animals, to the service of true humanity permitted and illuminated by the divine image, by the soul, which is veritably a part of God above, so that the whole of creation will realize that God is our maker.
Okay. All right, so that's it. It sounds heavy, but our goal is to make this practical, make this real. To take this lesson and make this real is that, let's number one define what being a human means, connecting with the part of us which is a part of God, which is called neshama, soul. So what is a soul? So the soul, as it says here, is veritably a part of God above, meaning literally a part of God. So besides the fact that we are a human being and we have the animal within us, so we have the trees within us, so we have the rocks within us, which is the created aspect of who we are. What does it mean to have a soul? It means literally a consciousness of God exists within our life, within who we are. There's a part of us which is literally part of God. That part of you was never born. It never dies. It just is. It's your true essence. This is what separates Adam from everything else in creation. So if you go back to the story of Genesis, which is what we are, so to speak, commemorating on Rosh Hashana, it tells the story of creation. On the first day, God created this. On the second day, God created this. The third day, God created this. And each thing was created. How did God create everything in creation? What was that? What we as humans use was called the power of speech, God's speech, which is we can't understand, but nevertheless, it's called speech. But however, when God created Adam, or the soul of Adam, it says that he breathed into him the power of life. So the difference, so the Torah specifically creates a distinction between all of creation, which is created with speech, and the soul, which is created with breath.
But animals have souls too, no?
Do animals have souls also?
Hmm.
Good point. But different kind of soul, though. Different kind of soul. Matter of fact, the watermelon has I'm sorry, I sound like a New Yorker. The watermelon, the watermelon has this. Everything has a spiritual spark that creates everything, which is like DNA, as they say the matrix. They say in other places in the world, called the matrix of creation. But there's something distinctly a human soul, and specifically a Jewish soul is specifically different in the sense that it has a distinct quality from all other things that people refer to as soul. But what we're calling soul right now, I'm not talking about like the animal soul,
Okay.
or the souls of animals. I don't want to get like, people upset now, like, what about my, dog? I'm sure it has a cute little dog soul, but we're talking about the souls that when someone passes away, you have to say Kaddish for. As far as I know, you don't have to say Kaddish for a dog. But the soul is a part of God. So what is the, okay, so going back to the story, what is the difference between talking and breathing? Think about it. Talking and breathing.
Giving and receiving.
Hmm?
It's giving and receiving. Like breathing, we like receive, and talking, we're giving.
We're just giving, yeah, okay. But you can also, you think about it, you get
Also,
just,
you can.
especially someone like me, I can talk the whole day. I can go on, I can talk for like 3 days straight, non-stop. Maybe I can take a couple
I
naps in
believe you.
between. I can go on talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. Okay. The point is that talking you can go on. It doesn't, why? Because it doesn't necessarily come from your essence. Whereas when you breathe eventually you get tired. You get tired out from breathing. Also, very much breathing is how a person's alive through their breath. And matter of fact, the word soul, neshama, that we often use, there are different words describing the soul. One of them is neshama. Neshama is actually also means breath. So when God created Adam, he blew into him a soul. Souls are blown. There is a custom, actually, and everyone, after I say this now, they're like, they're going to get all scared about it, that we don't blow out the candles. No.
You don't?
No.
Really?
Is that true?
It's true. Some people, the happy birthday to you. You bring out the candles, you bring out the cake, you just sit there, I'm not blowing it out. Nope.
Really?
You go like this instead. Because blowing out a soul is an analogy
Oh my
for a
God.
person,
That's scary.
passing away.
Thank you very much.
God forbid.
You
I
know?
think you're supposed to touch the light.
That's another way of
Right?
doing it. I mean, they might burn your hands a little bit.
Yeah.
Or you can just go
That
like
scares
this.
me
Go like
to do
this.
that.
But not the idea of blowing out a candle, because the candle represents a soul, and blowing out a soul represents the kind of like, not to say that going like this doesn't, but this is,
Right.
blowing it out, there's something, because blowing comes from one's essence. So, going back to the story of Rosh Hashana and what we're supposed to be doing, we are getting ready for this time of the year when it's like a new time. There's a brand new energy that's filling everything that was brought in last year. There was like a brand new energy, a brand new life. It's kind of like you go to sleep at night, you wake up in the morning. It's like even if the night before you were kind of feeling down, you're feeling tired, you had no energy, you couldn't think about what needed to get done. You wake up, it's like a new day. It's like you feel fresh, you feel new, you feel whatever you were thinking the night before is different now.
Right.
That would be, if you had to compare analogy for what the Rosh Hashana is, it's kind of like a new energy that just kind of like died down as the year went on, eventually just kind of finished up towards the end, and eventually goes away, and then there's a brand new energy that comes in on this day, a new life. As Adam was, just like Adam was created anew, as we're created anew in the morning, Rosh Hashanah, we're being created, the new year is being created, a new energy, a brand new energy. Energy did not exist before. It's brand new, and it's giving life to this new year, to creation for a new year, to a new, everything is brand new on this day. Now, what do I do with that?
Yeah.
That's great. What does that mean? So we want to become, how do we become new? By becoming reanimized. Just made that word up. I don't mean atomized.
Reanimated?
Reanimated, rehumanized. Become
atomized.
more connected with my purpose for being in this world. Now think about it. What am I here for? I mean, we spend much of our lives, all of us, being, doing things we need to do to get done. But we are here, our lives were given with a meaning, with a purpose. So this is a day that, why don't we spend the day, eating mayonnaise and eggs and listening to Putin? Or watching Dick Clark, God bless his soul, wherever he is, What do Jews do on Rosh Hashana? They buy tickets to the synagogue and they listen to a freaking rabbi blow into a ram's horn. Well, the ram's horn we'll discuss next week. But this is the point. It's how can I take over the world? How can I take over the world? Not the world. Forget the world. I'm talking about the whole entire universe world. The world, me, my world. How can I make the human aspect of who I am more important? Because a lot of times, what's the most important part of my life? My planned things. What are my planned things? Tzomeach, emotional realities, all the emotional stuff. My whole life is all my emotional junk. Oh, I feel this, I feel that, I feel this, I don't, this, why does this person do this to me? How I'm feeling, what I'm going through, what this is going to, all the emotional stuff. I spend my life on who is in control, not the human part, not the animal within me, the plant life, or the animal life within me. Maybe I am using my brain, but I'm using it in such a way just purely, it's about my selfish needs, about my ego, about feeding what I need to be fed, about how do I get more pleasure, how do I get more honor, how do I get more people liking me, how do I get more people focusing on me, how do I get my needs met? Whereas, then how do I make my neshama, which is what Adam truly is, how do I affect it more in every aspect of my life? It doesn't mean I should negate all those parts of who I am. But how do I make that human neshama, godly part of who I am, more of the essential, how does it become, how do I make that more the essential part of my life? How do I, the world conquest, how do I take that, how do I take it over?
What would that look like? Like what would that mean?
What would that mean?
Like an example.
You want an example?
Yeah.
You want an
What does that
example?
mean?
No, that's a good question.
This is all theoretical here.
I know.
We don't talk about examples.
I get it.
This is all theoretical. We're done now. No, okay.
Sorry.
That's a good point. Every time we talk about, I talked about this point a few times the past week, and everyone always says that. I'm like, I don't know exactly. No, okay. All right. Everybody has parts of the things in their lives that they have to work on as individuals, which is, for that person, how they could.
So like mitzvahs?
Boom. Could be mitzvahs, yes. Or there are certain mitzvahs that I could be doing that I'm not doing. And there's maybe certain reasons why I'm not doing them, because maybe the animal within me or the emotions within me or the other parts within me kind of doesn't let those parts, let those in. That's number one. But I don't know if I would limit it ultimately everything does come down to mitzvahs, but God wants us also to, as human beings, as Jewish human beings, but how do we bring God more into our lives? Let's say if I'm not in the middle of, let's say I'm not doing a mitzvah. Let's say, doing laundry, cooking, taking care of the house, paying the bills, being a working person. They're not necessarily mitzvahs, but there's ways that we can make them more godly. In my relationships with other human beings, including my friends, my family members, how I relate to the world and so forth. Okay, so let's get that. This is a very good question. How do we, let's read the next paragraph. Danielle, you asked that question. I think the Rebbe asked. Here's the answer. But we still need to explain that in our own words. But say that. Needless to say,
before a man sets out to conquer the world, he must first conquer himself through the subjugation of the earthly and beastly in his own nature. This is attained through actions which strictly accord with the directives of the Torah, the law of life, the practical guide in everyday living, so that the material becomes permeated and illuminated with the light of the one God, our God. God created one man, and on this single person on earth he imposed the said duty and task. Herein lies the profound yet clear directive, namely that one man, each and every man, is potentially capable of conquering the world.
One man, okay, we can stop there. Woman.
Yeah.
Man is a general term for all of humanity.
Yes.
Okay, so boom. We're not talking about conquering the universe, we're not talking about conquering the world, we're not talking about even conquering the country, or even conquering the state of New York, or even the city of New York, or even the borough of Manhattan, or even the district of which we live in, or even the block that I live on, or even in the apartment building that I live in, or even on the floor that I live on, or even in my household, the people that live in my house. I'm talking about literally within my own body. I'm conquering that world. How do I conquer that world? Is that within me there is an animal within myself, and then there is a divine, godly energy within myself. Now, this is something that I like to focus on. Begin with this is the Rebbe doesn't say it here, but other places you can say it. Number one, joy. How do I conquer the animal? Because that's all it's about. Mostly we're talking here about the animal within me, which is my human need to be to preserve myself and my needs and get what I want, and to that is the ego, the animal within myself. And then there's also a divine soul consciousness, which is aware of reality beyond me, which is beyond as me as not being the center of all of reality, but rather me being part of something else, being able to transcend that. Number one, it begins with joy. Yivdu Hashem b'simcha, serving God with joy. When we're in a state of mind of being happy to be alive, of being understanding that the incredible opportunity we have to be in this world and to have the life that we have, regardless of our situation that we're in that feels so bleak and so negative, before we even go about conquering those kind of things, let's start with because we can't do, if we're not happy, you can't do anything. There's no conquering anything when you're depressed.
Right.
So first, it begins with being happy. Serving Hashem with joy and being happy to be alive, and whatever we need to do to make that happen, we should make that happen. So practically, I would start with happiness. Now, that's like, oh great, so just take a drug and be happy. It's not simple, you know. I mean, that would be nice theoretically, and some people try and do that, but that usually those type of motivations don't bring you to be dominating over your human self. They end up kind of become less of a human being. So being happy in that sense is not a true happiness. But especially when so much of the negativity that we experience is actually a revelation of the animal within me. Because the animal within me says you're worthless, your life is empty, you don't have anything to be happy about. Yeah, everything is bleak, everything is hopeless. That's not coming from your neshama. Your soul doesn't say, oh, it's over, forget it, it's finished, you messed up, why'd you do that for? It's no hope, it's dark, it's dreary, you don't have anything to be positive about, you don't have anything to be thankful for. You know, that is not coming from the soul, that's coming from the animal within ourselves. So theoretically, being happy itself is conquering over the world around us. When Adam went out to conquer the world, he didn't go, oh boy, I'm still gonna conquer the world. I'm gonna freaking do it. It was like, joy and happiness, and someone who's happy is able to do what needs to get done. But I'm terrible. I made these horrible mistakes. So what? Be happy. Yeah, I know, but I'm a jerk. I don't care if you're a jerk. So what? God says be happy. But I don't. It's really just start with joy. Simcha starts with joy. Then once a person is in that upward place where he's able to strive to overcome that part of oneself, then one can think about those parts of my life. What part of my life is where I've kind of gotten a bit heavy, or have which is, if I would just kind of work on this thing, if I did these actions that God wants me to do, as the Rebbe mentions here in Torah. Everything that Torah asks us to do is only for our own benefit, even if it feels like it's hard for us, but actually will bring more benefit in our life. We can't become perfect overnight. We're not meant to do everything all at once. We're not meant to do that. We're not angels. We're human beings with particular struggles, and every person is different, and every person has their own, maybe you can call it your own mitzvahs that you need to focus on. But one of those things that if I would just maybe start to overcome by accessing that power of choice within me, because theoretically, there's a choice that we have to make, that only you as a human being or as a godly creature can make, that God himself can't make you do. Only you can do that. So, what would be one thing what is that one thing, or even as a general thing that I could do in my life if I would do this, it would be a major breakthrough. And that, or let's say that let's put everything into one major thing, because sometimes that's hard. Everyone look at their own life right now. Now this guy's got it made in the shade, right? Everything works out for him, right? Got the house, got the law review,
You
got
think
the,
so,
you know?
right? But then half of
But
things
you know what?
don't work out for him.
Well, not just
Right.
that. Let's look at our own lives.
Yeah.
You say, look at all the things that worked out for us.
Yeah.
What doesn't work out for us? If you think about it, we're always worried about things not working out, right?
Right.
How many of those things that we thought that weren't going to work out actually didn't work out? Or if they didn't work out, but they ended up working in a way that actually worked out better in a way. Think about it. Actually, it kind of always works out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't everything kind of work out?
It's not going to be okay.
But you
So it's all going to be okay, right? But that was then. This is now. That was now. It's finished. I'm done. They're going to come get me. I'm done.
Right.
It's all going to fall apart. Everything. That's fine. Back then, I understood that all worked out. I understood that's because, that was because of this. That was because, what's his name was president, so the economy was better back then, so then I could have done that. But now, forget it. Or opposite. Now, whatever it is, if you think about it, we always think that whatever situation we're involved in right now is we're doomed. And the other guy has it better than us, or the other person.
Or
So,
not, but we just
so
don't
the
think
question
that
is, do we want to, are we just going to accept, not that we should accept everything the way that it is, we shouldn't try and strive for more and grow and learn to become more educated, to learn more, to understand more, but there's a certain quality of certain people that we want to strive to be more like. And by the way, that's okay to think that way. I think it's a very healthy thing to look at someone else who has a certain personality trait, like being happy with life and wanting to be more like that person, as opposed to looking at someone and says, oh my God, they have, look at, there's two things. There's a spiritual jealousy is extremely healthy. Physical jealousy is extremely detrimental to a person. There's a famous Torah teaching from one of the rabbis who says that. You should be exact opposite. You look at someone else's physical well-being, you should always say, thank God with what I have.
Right. Well, it's like that with this too. It's like you wouldn't want to go through all
But
these
spiritually,
things.
we should never be like, oh, I'm fine the way I am. I don't need to grow anymore. I don't need to learn anymore. I'm fine the way I am. You look at someone else and say, wow, that person is happy with their situation. Even though they went through this, they went through that. You're right. Look up, there's certain people that go through incredible hardships and they just persevere. And they go, and they go, and they go, and they go,
Right.
and they go. And they just don't stop. And they
Right.
and they might have moments where they
Right.
feel sad, but they just
Yeah.
get through it and they move forward and they go on. And you know what? That they wasted a lot less time was wasted in worry and misery and so forth.
Totally.
Because in the end, it's going to work out anyway.
It's all going to be
The
okay.
question is, all going to be okay? Like it says in that green book, it's going to be okay. And if it's not going to be okay, guess what?
It's still
It's going to be okay anyway.
It's
So
crazy.
going back
Correct.
to the question you had, Rosh Hashana is when Adam ruled over the world. When he was born, he plopped down. Oh, I'm here. I'm here. And all the animals and all the plants and everything in creation just was like, wow, look how great, like the trees are. Look how great these animals are. Look at creation. And Adam instead said, whoa, guys, look at the Creator. So by giving us who the Creator is to all of creation, helps creation to be what it's meant to be. So they permeate the world with a sense of the Creator. What Adam brought was he reminded everything in creation about the Creator. Now that sounds like, oh boy, can't we have a party first? Like, it's like, do we have to do that? I mean, that sounds boring. It's like life, I gotta think about God all the time. I gotta talk about God to the plants. That's what a neshama does. A neshama is our reality in our human lives, that there's not what we just physically see before us. We're not denying and being part of the physical world, but we are understanding that there is something beyond it that is the true truth of within everything. So when something doesn't go our way, and we're so caught up that we're unhappy about it is because in that moment we are denying in a creator. In that moment, it's basically like you're worshiping idols. Sages say when a person is angry, they are worshiping idols.
Yeah.
Anger and idol worship are the same. How is that so? I mean, I get angry, but anybody here ever get angry? Ever get angry before? Elisa, you never get angry, right? Did you ever take like a statue and bow down to it before? I've never done that. You know, someone so you're like, what? So what does it mean? The sages say avodah zorah is likened to anger.
Because there's no place for God. If you're angry,
There's nothing. There's no place for God unless it's like an angry God thing. But most people don't know what spirit is. Meaning you're upset with something that God would be upset with. You know, but most of us are not angry because of that. So most anger is based on we lose sight of God. It's like purely losing sight of God in that moment. Like God does not exist in that moment. Because you think everything is about you and this person hurt you and how dare they, and it's how dare you rock my world. This is my world, this is my reality, this is my place, this is my life, this is my thing. How dare you do that to me? Now, by the way, that doesn't mean you let anyone in your life do whatever they want to you. Sometimes God wants you to, you have to respond to a certain situation, not let yourself be walked on, and so forth. But it is difference between a godly way and an ungodly way of that. So, belief in God and being the Adam within creation also applies in the parts of my life where I don't feel God, when I want to experience anger towards someone, when I need to make a decision in life to either bring unity to the situation, to bring a sense of inspiration here, or do I want to just go back into my animal doggy mode and just go back into my natural state of being without my neshama-less decisions, where I don't make decisions based on a godly reality. So how do I, this could be, so once again, Danielle's question, how can we practically rule over our universe in our own lives? Like this guy is doing, do that in our own lives. Apply, how can we take more of the what God wants us, what God wants us to do? How can I make that more his will? As the expression is, the more that I make my will his will, the more he'll make my will. Oh, I'm sorry, did I say that right? Wait, hold on. The more I make his will my will, the more that my will be his will. Did I say that right? Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. How can I make more his will my will? Meaning I've my own, listen, I got my own agenda here. God, please, I have my own agenda. I have what I want to happen, what I need to happen, what I want to happen. But and what happens is when you make his agenda your agenda, then eventually your agenda becomes his agenda. So going back to again practically, what can we do? How do we make him more part of our lives? How do I make God the king? Because what the day is about, crowning God as king. How can I make God the king? Where in my life is he not the king? Where in my life is God not the king? I remember years ago in Rosh Hashana, right before there was a story on the news. Like I told this at a Rosh Hashana thing. I was just trying to find an example of someone who really just who was like, God is not the king. So I remember there was a famous model she was in her closet and she asked her maid for a pair of jeans, and she brought her the wrong jeans, so she took her phone and she threw it.
Naomi
at,
Campbell.
Yes, you guys know that. Right? It was a stupid little story. But I remember that. She got stitches on her head.
That's crazy.
And I thought to myself, aha, now there's a person right now.
Jeans.
What's that? In that moment, that woman, that model was not, that God was not the king. God was not king in that moment. God was not, in that moment, when you're like all upset because the person didn't bring in the jeans. Whereas, so let's turn that around the other side of things. How can we make God, how do I make God the king in our lives, into my universe, into my world? How do I make God, besides, you give the example of the happiness. We give another example. Find something, some way in our own lives, some way, something.
Well, like you said, if something doesn't go your way, it's like not your, like, it's not
Going
up
on,
to you
continuing.
or other
I didn't go my
people.
way, fine, but I'm going to go. It's okay.
Because
It's
it's
going to
not-
be okay.
it's gonna be
Because
okay.
it's what God wants.
Well, because, right, if God's the king, then it's up to him what is
It's up to him.
ultimately happening.
It's up to him.
So you just don't take it personal because like
Don't
most
take
of
it
the time you say,
personal.
like, oh, why God just do that?
But this person did this to me. How dare they? Okay, it doesn't mean that person didn't do something wrong. They might have done it wrong, but that's between them and God. I got to continue on with my life and just continue doing my life the way it's supposed to be done day after day. How can I live a more ethical life? How can I make better ethical decisions when it comes to my finances, when it comes to how anything in any way, shape, or form? How can I incorporate more of certain mitzvahs into my life? Once again, I'm not saying you have to do everything all at once, but there's certain mitzvahs that maybe I could be doing better in, or I could be doing at least on a regular basis. And what things that God is asking of us to do, because that will ultimately be best for us. Our neshamas, our souls, will actually be more elevated from these things. But the more I apply that, but a lot of people just go through life thinking it's all about me and how much pleasure I can have in this world, how much success I can have in this world, and how much gratification I can have, which is nice. And some people are ethically, morally nice people, but when it's all about them, you're not the human. You're not conquering over the creation. You conquer creation. You conquer. The world conquest is when the Shama is real in your life, which means God is real in reality. And I apply that to every part of my life. How I eat and how I go about my life, how in every aspect. So therefore, Rosh Hashana is coming. What do we need to do before Rosh Hashana? One thing we could do before Rosh Hashana begins to make it more meaningful. Besides coming to the class, which we're doing right now.
Take something extra for yourself.
Take an extra, add in something.
Something.
Lada, what do you think? You still want to go to Indonesia or change your mind now? Maybe you want to stay here instead. You still want to make that concert with all the musicians, or there's something else?
Could do a Jewish concert type of thing.
It doesn't have to be on New Year. It doesn't have to be Rosh Hashana. You can do that, by the way, any other day of the year. No, I would say just, think about these ideas, learn about it, read about it, make the day special, make it, wherever you're going to be, you're going to be here with us, you're going to be with your family, you're going to be in a new city, whatever that's right, where your family lives.
Right.
You're going to be in Israel, right? Great place to be. How do I get more in tune with this? How do I, apply that? How can I become a fresh new individual for the year? Starting now, not waiting. I got 2 more weeks. I can still kind of like chill out and take it easy. But how can I start activating some things in my life to start choosing how I want my life to be in a godlier way, as opposed to just going through life and just a mechanical dog? How do I not be a dog, essentially, and become nothing wrong with dogs? God bless dogs. The dogs are meant to be dogs, and humans are meant to be humans. And we're not meant to be dogs. I would say that conclude with the story of the first Chabad Rebbe, who a story of one of his Hasidim, who was a very wealthy man, and who lost a lot of money, and as a result, he wasn't able to give charity anymore, and he complained to the Rebbe because someone goes to a Rebbe to get some spiritual insight. What does God want with me? So he says, listen, I can't give money anymore. So what should I do? Should I handle this? It's like, why is God doing this to me? And so the Alter Rebbe responded to him and said, even though that's what he was saying, he says, all I'm hearing from you is what you need, but I'm not hearing what you're needed for. And I think maybe what we could focus on in Rosh Hashana to be more neshama oriented as opposed to more human oriented is not to focus on me, even spiritually, where I'm going. What am I? Do I go to heaven? Do I go to hell? Am I in good place? Is it bad? Am I bad? Am I good? Am I bad? It's that's for the rest of the humanity who focuses on religion in a very selfish way. God's more focused on what we can do as opposed to how righteous or non-righteous we are. That's not what it's about. It's about what are we not. It's about not what I need. But what am I needed for? The more we focus on what we're needed for, the less it's about us. And yeah, I'm a sinner, but you know what? I'm a sinner who could do many incredible things. Let's focus on the things that we can do as opposed to where I'm going. You know, as the famous story of the Yochanan ben Zakkai, who cried before he was about to pass away because he said he didn't even know where he was going. And the Rebbe explained because he didn't even think for a second about himself until he was about to pass away. Actually, it didn't occur to him that who he was, what he was about. His whole life was just dedicated to just doing what he needed to get done, doing what needs to get done, doing what needs to get done. My spiritual state is irrelevant. I mean, it sounds kind of a crazy thing to think about, but that's kind of what our ideal should be. To be not focus on what, that's what it means. This guy who got divorced and went through this, went through that, he probably would just focus on, stop thinking about who I am. Am I divorced? Am I not divorced? Am I this? Am I that? Just what right now. What I got? What's on the agenda for today? How I get this day done? Today's tefillin. Today's mitzvah. Today's Shabbos. Not next week's Shabbos. Not the week after Shabbos. This Shabbos that's in front of me right now. All right.